Welcome to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Lawson, and this show is all about helping you not just reach retirement, but truly thrive in it. You've put in the work, now let's make sure you can enjoy every moment to the fullest. Today, we're going to start a 3-part series on long-term care. So long-term care is a topic that comes up a lot in my professional practice and one that invites a lot of questions and potential concerns. So over the next 3 episodes, we're going to define what is long-term care, what is the cost associated with long-term care, and then how do we plan for long-term care. But we'll start by defining really what is long-term care and spend the next few minutes highlighting the essentials of long-term care. I'm going to be using Genworth's resources to facilitate our conversation over the next 3 episodes. So Genworth used to be and still is an insurance company, but they used to be heavily involved in the long-term care marketplace. They've since really positioned themselves to be a great resource for long-term care education. So if you Google Genworth long-term care, their website has a lot of tremendous resources on long-term care. So we're going to be referencing today what is long-term care from Genworth. And to quote Genworth, long-term care is the care you may need if you are unable to perform daily activities on your own. That means things like eating, bathing, dressing, transferring, and using the bathroom. So if you Google activities of daily living, when we're unable to perform 2 of those 6 activities of daily living, that constitutes a long-term care situation. So the goal of long-term care is to help you maintain your lifestyle as you age. And then I'm quoting again, Medicare and Medicare supplement insurance and the health insurance you may have at work usually won't pay for long-term care. So long-term care is something that most health insurance plans, including Medicare, don't provide. And it's something that because more of us are living longer, the likelihood that we're going to be around but need some assistance later in life is significantly increasing, and is a form of care that it is now our responsibility to determine how we're going to address. So, second essential component of long-term care is, why would you need it? So I'm quoting again, a need for long-term care may result from accidents, illnesses, advancing aging, stroke, or other chronic conditions. Cognitive illnesses such as dementia and Alzheimer's disease are a growing concern for society. So those are causing more and more long-term care needs. But again, illnesses and just advanced aging, slowing down as a result of old age is a primary need or a primary cause for long-term care. Who is affected? So this is a big one here. So who is affected? The need for long-term care impacts the entire family, Genworth notes, not just the person requiring care. So I help my clients all the time really think about how when we're planning for long-term care, this is not necessarily something we're doing just for us. It's more for our children or our ancillary family members who would potentially be responsible or at least involved in our care if we don't have a formal long-term care plan in place. Along that same topic, one of the biggest reasons why a lot of my clients are forced into retirement early is because mom or dad becomes sick and their long-term care is relying on their son or daughter, my client in that case, for their care. and it becomes a very just a big time responsibility, emotional and financial drain on the client to not only balance their life, their job, their own children, but also now having to help take care of mom and dad. So it affects all family dynamics, not just the individual needing care. What are the factors that affect who needs long-term care? So Genworth lays out really 5 primary factors that can indicate a need for long-term care. 1, age. So as you get older, the more likely you will be to need long-term care. 2nd is gender. So since women oftentimes outlive us men, they tend to have a greater likelihood of needing long-term care. 3rd, family and housing situation. So people who live alone are more likely to need care. There's been a lot of studies and research show that the impact that living in isolation can have on our brain over time. And they're drawing more of a link towards loneliness and Alzheimer's or dementia. So those that do happen to live alone may have a higher need for long-term care. Health. So if we have a chronic health condition like diabetes, high blood pressure, or family history, that may increase your risk. And then lastly, lifestyle. Certainly poor diet and exercise contribute and enhance the likelihood that you may need long-term care. Finally, choice in care settings. So while the majority of people want to receive long-term care services in the home they've always lived in, that option isn't always right depending on the need. So most people do, if they need care, they want to stay in their own home as long as possible, but sometimes that's just not practical due to the nature and extent of care they're requiring. So other options include adult day healthcare. So that is a very kind of literal thing, adult day healthcare, social and support services provided in a community setting. So think about, the daycare that you may know for children. It's sort of the same concept for adults. And then there's facility options. So assisted living facility and nursing home are for people where it's no longer practical for someone to come in their home and provide care. Maybe they're requiring around-the-clock care, or it's just no longer feasible for them to receive care at home. Assisted living facilities and nursing homes are other places that people can receive care. So those are really the essentials of long-term care. And the Genworth website does a great job kind of educating us on these essentials, but also highlighting the statistical probability. If a couple nowadays lives to age 65, the likelihood that one of the spouses is going to need long-term care is now greater than 50%. So out of all the potential risk factors that we plan for when it comes to retirement, taxes, ups and downs in the market, there's a very high statistical probability, especially for a married couple, that one of the spouses is going to need long-term care at some point during their life. So it's one that we would be remiss to neglect in our efforts to become best educated, organized, and prepared for retirement. I hope you found this initial long-term care podcast episode helpful, and I'll look forward to expanding on this over the next 2 weeks. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Retirement with and On Purpose podcast. I hope you're walking away with new ideas and a fresh perspective on how to make the most of your retirement journey. And remember, retirement isn't the end. It's your time to live with purpose. Until next time, I'm Trevor Lawson. Here's to a fulfilling and thriving retirement.